Hello and welcome to the Trash Talk Podcast. I'm your host JG, and with me today I have Sergey.
Hey, I'm also on a couch today.
Yes, you are. I don't
Yeah.
know what to say about that. Today we are going to be talking about deception, modernity, and also questions. The first question is actually the first topic as well, and it states, I'm just going to read out the entire thing. During World War II, the British maintained an entirely fictional arm that they successfully used to draw German forces away from invasion targets. Do you think something similar can happen in this day of technological sophistication?
Short answer, yes, kind of.
Yeah, and next topic, no, I make a joke every time when we give a short answer. I should probably stop doing that.
Yeah.
So, I would argue that it is possible, but there's definitely differences to consider. So, I assume that the way they pull it off back then would be quite different from how you would do it now. And there's also a lot of ways to figure out if things are fake that we didn't necessarily have access to back then.
Yep. Lots of new technology. Quite prominently, satellite imagery.
Yeah, I was
just
just thinking
look
about that.
at the place.
It's like, oh yeah, they're developing this weapon in a laboratory. Well, I guess if they're still developing it, it's probably not as worrying maybe, but either they're working on something or like, oh, they have something like inside of a base, right? Like, if it's not too large, you could probably get away with it not being visible on satellite imagery, though then again, if it's like a personal arm, then why be so worried about it? So I guess it would have to be at least like artillery or something. Maybe a new type of bomb. Like, hey, a new type of more powerful bomb. I mean, not that we need more powerful bombs, but you get the gist. Right, it's like, on the outside it looks just like a regular one, but on the inside, oh boy.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like actual stationed forces somewhere. Like, if they say they have like an army, like part of an army stationed somewhere.
I figured when they said arm, they meant like weapon. You know, like an arm.
Oh. Okay, yeah. I see that. Nah, I interpret it more like a part of an actual army stationed somewhere.
I mean, you could definitely have satellite imagery, but then again, you could also just do something where, like, I don't know, there's tree cover or something, and then you really just need there to be, like, you can relatively easily disguise yourself, I think, in that case where, like, I mean, maybe not on, like, a flat environment, but, like, with, like, tarps that are, like, colored, like, the environment, like, camel stuff, I think you can probably... Satellite imagery tends to not be, like, the highest resolution, usually. Like, you can probably get away with stuff like that. Well, I mean,
it's really sharp. Like, you can see a lot of stuff.
I mean, it depends on, like, how large of an area I guess they're looking at, right? Like, if they were, like, taking a large area picture, it would probably be a lower over... Like, you couldn't zoom in as far as if you took, like, at a specific location. So I guess it also depends a little bit on where exactly you... Like, if you say, like, oh, yeah, like, they're somewhere in this huge forest, right? Like, you might not be able to get, like, high enough resolution imagery to, like, confirm definitely that there is a person there, whereas... Though then again, you might not even just use traditional imagery, you might use... I don't know if you have satellites that can do stuff like infrared or something, which would be a lot more useful. Probably do, right?
Don't know about infrared satellites. But that wouldn't surprise me if that existed.
It sounds like a real thing, but I also have to admit that I don't think I've ever seen it. But then again, you could also just, like, fly over with a drone.
Yeah.
Right? Like, again, the more specific the area is...
Oh, right, drones. Drones exist.
Like, you can just fly over with... I mean, you can also fly over with, like, a regular plane, but, like, you know, you could literally just use a commercial drone to get camera footage off of a place. Like, that is... And then, like, military drones, they have all sorts of equipment, and they can also directly fire at them while they're at it. My favorite World War II story is still the one with the... I think it was World War II, yeah. Where they had, like, the tanks that were just like basically balloons, where it's just like you just blow them up with air, and they look like a tank from afar.
Like the tanks.
Yeah.
That technology is still around, by the way, and probably gonna be used if stuff happens. Because they also kind of improved on this. It also on infrared looks like a real tank and stuff nowadays.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure how much infrared cares about tanks. Like, where like they're already somewhat isolated. Like, you're probably not gonna be able to see a person instead of a tank with infrared, would you? I mean, I don't know, but like,
no.
So they're
Not
probably
really,
somewhat cold anyway, so it's probably not that difficult.
But like a balloon that is completely empty or like hollow looks quite a bit different on infrared than a tank.
Which is probably a reflective surface to some degree when it comes to heat. Yeah, that's true. Huh.
So yeah. Also, that looks real on satellite imagery.
Oh, yes.
And probably drones too.
I just like the idea of just getting a drone that has like kind of a sort of gun attached to it that just shoots like tiny darts. Like just needles, basically, right? It's like, this isn't going to do anything against a real tank, right? But like, if we suspect they're using fake tanks, we just shoot a needle at every tank, and the ones that just deflate are not real.
By the way, like, these tanks still have like small pumps in them to suck air in. I think they don't care about like holes a couple centimeters in diameter.
Okay.
So yeah, no.
I mean, I just thought it was a funny idea. I mean, listen, right? No, but I think
I know.
I guess generally the idea is like, how well could you spread disinformation in these days? And I would argue in some ways a lot more easily than before, right? Like, there are online disinformation campaigns all the time, and like, whether like not all of them are necessarily like planned and coordinated, but disinformation clearly spreads very well over the internet. Now, in wartime, the situation might be a bit different, but I feel like you could use a lot of the same ideas. And frankly, just because there's a war doesn't mean there is no internet in the area. You could probably still get access to it, especially if it's not like a global war. So you could just like get satellite contact. Like, you can get internet over satellite, right? That's a thing that exists. It's a technology that exists, and so you could get satellite even in a place where all the infrastructure is destroyed. If it were to come to that, though, if a war is that far, then I'm not sure if disinformation is the biggest thing we're worrying about.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, the question would be, like, how do you spread it to the point where enemy forces would believe it to be real? Is probably, like, one of the trickier parts there.
Yeah. Because don't think you try to spread misinformation through like your regular folk.
What was the thing about the carrots?
I mean, yeah, kind of, but different times, I guess.
I mean, also, like, anything that's, like, based in any kind of way on, like, science, the more detail you give, the more likely someone with a science background can debunk it. Right? And then,
yeah,
hopefully, the military personnel in charge would be intelligent enough to listen to experts that say, like, no, this certain point of claim is just not possible. Now, granted, in science, there was a thing where, like, well, you oftentimes don't say something is impossible. You would more likely say that we don't know how to do that yet, which,
something is improbable to be true.
Yeah. But, like, oh, like, this technology would have to be so far off from where we are right now that it's very unlikely someone would have developed it, sort of a thing. Like, you could probably make some guesses about, like, once we get back into, like, the, you know, like, fake weaponry sort of idea.
Yeah.
There's also a thing where a lot of, there is definitely attempts, I don't know how successful, of, like, governments to try to get their own agents and operatives in enemy organizations. So that would also be a thing that you have to. I mean, back then as much as now to consider, where it's like, if everyone on our side knows that we're lying, and one of the people on our side is actually not on our side, I mean, even if it's not an infiltrator, it could also be a defector, right? Like, then, all of a sudden, the ruse doesn't really work anymore. So that's kind of also something to consider, which is also why keeping the general populace and also your, like, field soldiers in mistaken belief that whatever misinformation is spreading is actually true would be useful, to where only the higher-ups really know it.
Yeah. That's definitely the case. Like, always. The more people know that something is not true, the more chance of it leaking.
Speaking of leaks, I think there's
generally the case for everything, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a great point to be made about leaks, though, because it has become very common for media of different sorts, movies, television shows, video games, to oftentimes have some of their information leak before a release, and then oftentimes, sometimes it will turn out later that leak was actually really just a promotional stunt, and that was an intentional leak. And the fact that oftentimes we don't find that out, right? Like, I mean, you know, when we don't find out, of course, it's hard to say if it is the case or not, but even if we do find out later, oftentimes we didn't know for a while. And if they could pull that off, right? I mean, again, you're trying to fool the general public. It's maybe not as difficult as, like, more discerning. I mean, they're not necessarily lying either, but they're letting information out that is not getting doubted necessarily. And you could do the same thing with fake information. As a matter of fact, I think there have also been cases of that where they use misdirection with, like, fake leaks as well. That's not as common, but so I'm just thinking, if that is possible, then I don't see why, like, governments and armies could not do the exact very similar things where, like, they pretend like one of their soldiers is leaking something, or, like, you know, someone who sat in on a government meeting or whatever, and that then goes out to the wider public and turns out to be false.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Yeah. That probably also has happened quite a couple of times in military history.
I mean, yeah. I
wouldn't surprise me.
Come up with a specific instance where we know that to have happened for sure. But also, again...
Like, as in we both specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm by no means an expert on military history.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's very possible that it happened, and that we could actually look that up right now, and there's files of that, because a lot of, like, older military history stuff, like, files get declassified and sort of stuff where after the fact you'll eventually find out that something didn't happen, so... Yeah?
Yeah.
But I think the short answer is just that deception is always going to remain a valid strategy to some degree.
Definitely.
It kind of goes hand in hand with...
Well, until we have, like, one single conscience, where we all merge together into one.
Honestly, while I can see how we would go that way maybe eventually at some point, I think the chance that we're going extinct is much more likely.
Yeah, agree.
And at that point, there would also be no more warfare involving humans. Where was I? Right. So obviously, right, yeah, eventually. But I think it's one of those things where if you look at security as well, right, like physical and cyber, right, like new technology comes along that gets used by, like, you know, your hackers and like the people that are trying to break into things, like thieves, hackers, like generally those people, while new technology also gets used to beef up the security, right? And so you get that game where, like, both sides are just ramping up slowly. And I think that can, to some degree, just also keep happening where, same with, like, the disinformation here. It's like, yeah, there's going to be new technology that allows you to more easily spot fake information. There's also going to be new technology to let you fabricate better fake information, right? Like, you could have an entire fake meeting that is just actually made with like deepfakes and whatnot, and then there's algorithms that can detect deepfakes, and not that you would need to, of course, if you were trying to spread misinformation about your own people, then you could just have an actual real fake meeting. Like where the actual people that are supposed to be in the video are actually saying the lines that they're supposed to be saying. It's just not a real meeting, it's meant to be filmed. But like both sides, the ones that are trying to spot the deception and the ones that are trying to deceive, are going to get more sophisticated.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm going to also get into generally the side that's going to win in that sort of disinformation campaign is probably going to be the one that is more technologically advanced.
Like until a point where like actual fake information is just not different from actual real information. Where it's so advanced that you just can't tell.
Yeah, but again, I would suspect that the more realistic it gets, the higher fidelity we're going to have in detecting it. So I would deem it very possible that there's never going to be like a perfectly undetectable deception. I mean, maybe, but also again, like both sides get more sophisticated, right? So it's easy to imagine how deceptions can get more accurate. It's harder to imagine how we could crack them more effectively, but that's not to say that we can't.
Yeah, sure.
What did I have another thought on that? No, I think we're pretty much there.
Yeah.
I feel like I had another point, but it doesn't really matter. Do you want to move on to the next thing?
Which is Facts of the Week.
Facts of the Week,
yes.
Sergey. You prepared a Fact of the Week, I have been told?
Yeah. Yes, I did. So, did you know that the symbol for plutonium was made as a joke? Like PU.
No. Is it because it spells out poo? Well, depending on...
Well, kind of. So, like the obvious choice would have been PL for plutonium.
Yes.
The first two letters.
Wait, what does platinum have? Does it have PL or PT?
Ooh, I think PT, though I'm not sure. Oh. Yeah, you'll look that up.
Platinum has PT, yeah. Okay, never mind. I was just about to say, like, it might be taken by platinum. I wasn't sure.
So yeah, well, like, one of the guys that was like there to name this, he chose the letters PU as a joke in reference to the interjection PU, like as in like to indicate an especially disgusting smell. Like, phew.
Oh.
Ew.
That does sound more like that than it sounds like poo. I mean, again, I wasn't sure exactly on the language, right? Like, because the pronunciation of letters is going to differ wildly. But then again, also, if it is another language, then the word poo probably doesn't have as much meaning, but English being a lingua franca, it could have been possible.
Yeah. So, and like to his surprise, it passed without like a single word of objection or anything or any comment.
It's like the letters are in there. In the correct order, too. Like...
So yeah, also, like, as a bonus fact, alternative names were that they considered for plutonium were ultimum or extremium, because they thought that, like, erroneously thought that they had discovered the last element on the periodic table.
Ooh. Turns out, there isn't really a last one. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, they get, at some point towards the end of where we have it right now, like, they get incredibly unstable, and we can only, like, create them artificially and then have them exist for, like, fractions of seconds, and I think some of the ones are, like, in the very end, like the like in the late 110s, but technically it is imaginable that you could go further than that.
At least with my basic understanding of chemistry and physics.
I mean, then again, they named the atom because it was philosophized to be, by the ancient Greeks, to be the smallest, inseparable, like, unsplittable thing. It's like the smallest unit.
Yeah.
That you can't break down further, which is why they call it an atom. And there are such things as subatomic particles, which by definition means that we can break down the atom. Of course, we can break it down into protons, electrons, and neutrons, which you can further break down to like quarks and shit.
Yep.
Our current understanding is that
and
quarks
now we have
are like...
Flag.
Oh yeah, right. I was about to say our current understanding is that we can't break quarks down further, but that's not even necessarily true. I just don't think we can show that.
Though I think like the Planck measurement, as far as I understand, was just chosen like at random, more or less. Just a really arbitrarily small division, something. I don't know.
I thought a Planck length was the shortest possible distance in space or something, where like.
I mean, yes,
literally
that's
nothing.
Kind of the definition.
Move a shorter distance.
Like, how did they determine that? Or did they just choose a really, really, really small...
Maybe it is the distance of a quantum leap. I don't know. I don't actually know if quantum leap is the smallest, but like, you know how... I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not an expert on quantum physics, and frankly, even the people that are don't fully understand it, so... You know.
True.
I mean, they sort of understand it better than I do. My fact of the week is a lot less scientific and a lot more about entertainment. My fact of the week relates to 2 actors. Have you ever heard of Christopher Eccleston and Peter Capaldi?
I heard the second guy.
So both were actually considered for the role of the 8th Doctor. But declined because they believed they wouldn't actually be cast. Capaldi was also later considered as for the role of the 11th Doctor, though Stephen Moffat, the showrunner at the time, didn't feel that the timing was right. Of course, Christopher Eccleston became the 9th Doctor, and Peter Capaldi the 12th. Peter Capaldi, by the way, first appeared in Doctor Who in the episode The Fires of Pompeii, where he just played like a regular Roman dude. Well, not a Roman dude, a Pompeian dude. I mean, they're probably still Roman in terms of nationality, but like not in terms of city. Because Rome was a city in the Roman Empire. Where was I? Right. That was the first appearance of Peter Capaldi in Doctor Who. I'm not sure if his first appearance in Doctor Who universe was that, or his appearance in season 3 of Torchwood.
Ooh, spoilers.
I mean, different character.
Still.
Fun fact, in the Fires of Pompeii, while we're at it, there was also another person present that you might recognize, and that is that Karen Gillan played one of the priestesses in that episode, and she would, of course, later go on to play Amy Pond.
Oh.
You got...
Oh, okay.
You got an actor that would later go on to play the Doctor, and an actress that would later go on to play a companion, both in the same episode as different characters.
Interesting. I think I gotta rewatch that.
Yes. You know what? Going over early appearances of characters. Now, let me just mention one more thing. You have recently started watching Torchwood, I believe.
Yeah.
Did Tosh seem familiar to you by chance?
Who is that?
The Asian woman. She has a longer name, but I think they call her Tosh, don't they? For short.
It's been like 2 weeks since I've seen the last episode.
If I type in fucking hell, I gotta agree to cookies everywhere.
Torchwood.
Toshiko Sato. or Tosh for short, was a member of Torchwood 3 in the 2000s. Her first appearance
Torchwood
was...
3?
Yes. That is what the series Torchwood is all about.
Okay.
Because it's the third iteration of the Torchwood Institute. I think the first one is the one founded by one of the queens, which one was it? Victoria, I believe.
Right, yeah.
Way back when.
Yeah, right.
And I think the second one is Torchwood London, which is the one that got destroyed in the Battle of Canary Wharf. In the finale of, I believe, season 2 of Doctor Who. In the season 1 episode, I believe, let's see, Aliens of London is a season 1 episode. In the 4th episode of the first season of Doctor Who, the same character actually appears.
I haven't seen that one.
Season 1, episode 4. You haven't seen that?
No. I kind of only seen the first 3. Still have to continue watching.
What? No, season 1, episode 4 of Doctor Who. The new one.
Oh, Doctor Who. Yeah, shit. Yeah, no. I've seen that.
She first appears in that episode as basically a random doctor. I mean, it's the same character, but, like, I'm not sure if they always intended that to be, like, a character that would later appear in a spin-off. She just, like, it's funny because you wouldn't think of it. Like, I didn't never thought of it when I watched Doctor Who, but then when I watched Doctor Who, but then when I recently rewatched Doctor Who, and so that episode I was like, wait a second! Yeah. Jack is not the only character who, in the original Torchwood cast that has previously appeared in Doctor Who. He's one of 2, at least.
Interesting.
I kind of just spun off into multiple factoids that are related to my fact of the week, but what we're actually going to do next is we're going to play Higher or Lower. And let me put it in full screen. Nope, I don't want to open the console. Let me go into this view. And there we go! Higher or Lower, classic. Who goes first?
Wait, where's my mouse? Wait, oh no.
Oh, can you not see it otherwise? There we go. Yeah,
I have to full screen the call.
Yeah, do you want to go first or should I go first?
I don't care. You can.
I'm gonna go first because apparently Sergey's feeling around with stuff. Honda or Mike Tyson? Ooh. I'm gonna go with Lower. Whew. The Secret Garden, Lower. Never heard of it. Tottenham Hotspur. Okay, that appears to be a basketball organization. That's a basketball, right? I'm gonna say 90K.
Maybe?
I'm gonna say Lower.
Ooh.
That is what we call risky business. 2. Sergey! 2001: A Space Odyssey or The Pianist?
Damn, I assume The Pianist is like a movie or something.
It's either a movie or a book or something like that. The subtitle appears to be Music was his passion, survival was his masterpiece. As it says right up top.
God.
2001: A
Can I
Space
go
Odyssey
lower? Because like I haven't heard of that, but Space Odyssey, pretty famous, I think.
Yes. So
I'm gonna go lower.
And it was ever so barely lower.
Damn.
Kata Tuta? Tuta? Tushuta? Tuta? I don't know.
I believe I've heard of that, but I'm not sure.
Well, I sure as hell haven't.
Oh god. Oh god. Gonna go. I'm gonna risk it and say higher.
And that was very wrong.
No. Yes, very wrong.
My turn. Nelly or 50 Shades of Grey? 50 Shades of Grey is higher. Who would have thought? Actually, not that much, though. The Beach Boys. Knowing people. I mean, the Beach Boys were more popular than Nelly, though, but, like, they're older, right? Like, they're more from, like, the 60s. Which... I want to go higher, but I'm going to go lower because I think that's more realistic. Like,
damn.
Higher. Victoria's Secret is obviously higher, I mean, for a variety of reasons. Donnie Darko has a cult following, I believe, but not that big, I would say.
Oh, fuck.
It's a movie.
What is that?
America's Got Talent is a talent show, which is obviously higher. And it isn't, which surprised me.
Oh.
And we got a score of 4.
That was surprising.
I believe the Garrett Jules cover of Mad World was in Donnie Darko, wasn't it? So that was 4.
I don't know.
Then Sergey, iPhone 8 or Old Trafford?
I think it would be pretty hard to beat the 16 million. So lower, obviously.
Who would have thought? Spotify.
Yeah, higher. Definitely higher.
It's not that hard to beat 16 million.
Yeah.
Raging Bull.
Lower. Obviously lower. Never heard of that.
Michael Flynn.
Ooh. God, I'm bad with names. I think I've heard of that guy. Shit. Damn. Looks kind of recent. So, like, more recent than Raging Ball. God, higher? Maybe?
That is true.
Yeah.
Chicago White Sox.
Oh, God. Why?
Sergey, they're a baseball team. From Chicago, believe it or not.
I can
or at least
see that.
roughly from around there. You never know with sports teams. I mean, a lot of times the actual, like, the headquarters and even oftentimes the stadiums are located, like, in, like, a smaller city nearby the actual city they're named after for sports teams. But they're named after the more known city.
Like, they can be, like, super famous and have, like, millions of searches. Or they could just be, like, a local team or something and have, like, maybe a couple thousand. I don't know. Gonna go lower.
I do believe they're a major league team, if I'm not mistaken, Sergey. But they are lower.
Okay.
Schweppes!
Ooh.
I always forget that second E is there.
Like it. True, yeah. It's a really popular beverage, though. I don't think they would have like 250k searches. So I'm gonna go lower.
That seems
I
dangerous.
think that's risky.
And you got it! The Wire!
The Wire, never heard of it. Lower.
I would assume that's higher. Yeah.
Okay.
Never heard of it. You got 6, Sergey. If we stop right now, you'll actually have more points then. Because I believe you would have a total of 7 and me of 6 then.
I think so, yeah.
So, let him have it.
Yeah.
I realistically don't know if you would actually win or not if we did it again, but also 6 does seem like a bit of an outlier. Though then again, you could argue that 1 is also a bit of an outlier, but maybe not for you. Topic number 2 is good questions to ask, courtesy of ConversationStartersWorld.com. And the article, 350,
gotta say,
good questions to ask.
Let me zoom in on the
Honestly,
page.
The first one strikes me as one that you and Alex could talk about for like an entire podcast topic. What weird food combinations do you really enjoy?
Don't enjoy weird food combinations. They're all sensible. Wait, I can't see you.
No.
It's. How do I do this?
It doesn't matter. You don't need to see the dumb faces I'm making. I can also just read out all the questions. That would also work.
I mean, I do see them. Like, rather, I have the choice between seeing you or the questions.
So, what weird food combination do you really enjoy?
Like I said, I don't enjoy weird food combinations. They all make sense.
Like freaking like marshmallow fluff and crackers.
Yes. Like, have you tried it at least?
Yes.
Like once?
I believe so.
Like the best thing ever.
Okay, let me ask
Also,
you
like,
that then. Are
people look weird at me if I eat like a lemon, like an apple, but that's not really a food combination.
That's not a combination. But that is kind of weird. Like lemon peel? I don't know. I mean, I guess yeah. Why not? I mean, orange peel goes in recipes, so
yeah.
Like, I guess you can see it. I did it with an onion once. Well, I mean, I peeled like the outer layer off because like that stuff's actually like, unedible. But like, I did bite into an onion like an apple, and then also finished it.
I was there when it happened.
I know. Are you one of those ice cream and French fries kind of person?
No, that's weird.
Yeah, because I know people that
I don't do weird stuff.
That. Let's see, weird food combinations. I can't come up with anything like particularly weird. I find it usually gets weird when you combine sweet and savory. That's usually when it gets something that people consider weird. That's like one of the big things you can do very easily. Which is why, like, kind of the marshmallow fluff and crackers fall into that, because the fluff, of course, is sweet and the crackers are salty. But then again, sweet and salty are probably like the most compatible tastes in like that category.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, have you tried pickles with honey? Like,
no, but there's no way you can tell me that is not a weird combination.
Man, it's super tasty. It's not weird.
It's okay. It's not like what disgusting food combination do you enjoy. It's like what unusual or weird combination do you enjoy. That is certainly weird. But let me tell you something.
Actually, like, lots of stuff goes with honey.
You know what I actually don't like that it seems to be very popular, which I think is a weird combination, is salted caramel.
Oh yeah, no, that stuff is weird.
Yeah, I don't know who thought it was a good idea.
Also salted popcorn, like what the fuck?
Oh no, I love salted popcorn.
Stuff's supposed to be... No, man.
Okay, so the thing is,
that's
right?
Not okay.
It's not even like it's supposed to be sweet or savory or anything. Like popcorn, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like, you know, like bread or something, right? You can eat bread with like Nutella on it or marmalade and it's sweet, or you can eat it with cheese and it's savory, right? Or plenty of other things. Those are just examples. And popcorn is also relatively neutral, right? You don't like first put sugar on it and then put salt. You put just salt on it. It's just corn with salt on it. It's not even like sweet corn, I think. Right? It's like...
Wait, what do you mean by cheese is savory? Like what?
I mean,
is it like neutral?
What, cheese?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, whatever, like, the point is, bread can go with just about anything, right? It's a relatively neutral taste. And popcorn is arguably the same thing, right? Unless you, like, start buttering, salting, or sugaring it, or whatever else people do with popcorn. Like, the actual, like, popped corn, like, doesn't taste like much. It feels like eating cardboard.
Yeah.
Right? Almost. I mean, probably not quite as bad. But like,
close.
You know, you get the idea. And depending on what you put on it, that's how it tastes like. Which means, I just thought about something, you could probably make sweet tofu dishes. Because that stuff also doesn't really taste like much of anything. It's always seen as a meat substitute.
I tried tofu.
But, well, I mean, I probably have, but like, the whole point what people always say about tofu is like, you have to really get the spicing right because it doesn't have a lot of, like, inherent taste. That's the point. Let's go into like the next question before we just make an entire topic about weird food combinations. Though, as I said, we can. What social stigma does society need to get over?
Ah.
Are you not coming up with any, or are you just coming up with too many to pick out which one's good?
Yes. Like both, kind of. Like one-upping each other on bad things that happened.
Ooh, yeah.
To one. I just don't get that.
That's more. That's not really a stigma as much as it's just a behavior that people have, right?
I mean, yeah. Wait.
I guess with stigma.
Should we reread the question?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
What we're really asking is, what are things that are considered bad or like improper, but should actually be fine? I think one of the big things in terms of stigma is a lot of mental issues, of course. Mental health awareness is becoming more of a big topic, and it's becoming a lot better, definitely. I think it's worth mentioning, though, there are things like drug addiction that still are very looked down upon. And
yeah,
oftentimes people just kind of fall into that, right? Like, people don't really plan to get addicted to drugs. And if it's so heavily stigmatized, it makes it harder to get help for it. Because people will maybe not get help because they're afraid that someone finds out that they're getting help for this issue that they're having, and thereby find out that they're having that issue. It's a big thing with stuff like functioning alcoholics, right? Where it's like, you can function as a person even while being an alcoholic, thereby the only thing that you risk when getting therapy is to have you find out they're an alcoholic, which to some people is worse than actually being an alcoholic, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Relatedly, one thing that I like to bring up, and this one is a bit extreme, but I've always said it and I will keep saying it. The stigmatization of pedophiles, right? I'm not saying that doing things to children is okay or anything like that, but the fact of the matter is, it's also a psychological condition at the end of the day, where they're attracted to children. And if being a pedophile is inherently seen as bad, even without performing any actions related to it, then those people will again have a hard time finding help, because I'm sure if you go to a psychiatrist for that, or psychologist or whatever, I always get those mixed up, then you can probably get help so that you don't act on it, which is arguably how it should be. So I always find it difficult that those people have to, like, honestly, right, like, those people, like, there's some on the internet that are like proudly talking about it, and like, that's obviously bad as well, but like, just the fact that someone has that attraction and is trying to deal with it should not be looked down upon, right? Because then they'll, once again, not seek any help, try to hide it, inevitably lose control of some sort, and then act on it in some sort of way that is very destructive. And I think those people, like, sure, again, you're not gonna, like, walk up to someone and proudly tell them about, like, ooh, I saw this child yesterday and I thought they were really hot. Like, no, fuck off. But like, you know, get help. And it should be fine to get help for those sort of issues.
Yeah, it really should be.
I swear to God, that's probably, like, part of the reason why a lot of those pedophilic acts happen is because the pedophiles can't get any help. I'm not 100% sure how the statistics on that are, and of course some of those acts don't even happen from pedophiles necessarily, but just from people that are exploiting someone who is more manipulatable or weaker, but still.
I don't know. Another one is like having a good sleep schedule, getting enough sleep. That, in some situations, is kind of looked down upon.
Oh yeah,
for some reason.
I mean, this kind of relates to the whole toxic productivity culture sort of thing, where everything you do needs to be productive, and people are trying to be as productive as humanly possible, and kind of that, like, there's almost, to bring it back to the actual question, kind of a stigma against relaxing and just taking it slow.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, what's the point, right? There's that parable about the fisherman, right? Where, like, the fisherman is just like chilling in the shadows somewhere, and like a businessman comes up to him.
Oh yeah.
And he asks him, "Oh, why aren't you catching more fish?" And the fisherman is like, "I caught enough fish for today." And the businessman says, "But if you catch more fish, you can make more money, and then you could hire people to do the fishing for you, and then you can relax." And the fisherman just goes, "What do you think I'm doing right now?"
Yeah,
it's relaxing. I probably didn't quite do it that story justice, but that's like the rough gist of how that story goes.
I mean, you had the main points in there.
Like, why work your ass off to get to a point where you don't have to work if you can already have a balanced work-life situation right now?
Bro, that's not really what I'm doing right now because I don't have a balanced work-life situation going on.
Fair.
But for the like exact opposite reason.
Yeah. No, but the idea still stands, right? Like that idea where
you
always need to be productive, and as you said, like, you know, it's almost like if someone says like, "Oh yeah, I want to sleep 4 hours every night," like they're almost applauded for that, right? It's like, you're doing great. It's like, that doesn't sound healthy. And, you know, different people have different needs, and maybe there are some people that are actually healthy on 4 hours of sleep. I doubt it. But, like, you know, like 6, probably. 4, but that whole thing. Also,
yeah, 4 doesn't sound healthy.
Speaking of stigma, right? Getting up late, right? This is not even about amount of sleep, right? It's just like, if you get up, like, it's always like, oh yeah, like all those great productive people that get up at like 5 in the morning, it's like, okay, I can understand somewhat about the circadian rhythm and all that stuff, where it's like getting up to the sun and whatnot, but if I sleep for 8 hours, as an example, and I'm a productive human being, not exceedingly necessarily, but like reasonably productive, right? How does it matter if I'm getting up at 6 in the morning or at 12 at noon, right? If I get up 12 at noon and I go to bed at 4 a.m., same fucking result.
Yeah. I was hoping you would say like 6 a.m. or p.m., but
I mean, 6 p.m.
also works.
Yeah, 6 p.m. is kind of the thing where you're getting into now you're almost doing the opposite of the circadian rhythm thing, where like you're awake during a lot of darkness and you're sleeping through a lot of light. Which, again, you can make arguments there where that might not be the most optimal for your body and for like your energy levels and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But especially in winter or something, when like it's dark for like 10, 15 hours, like it doesn't matter when in that time frame you sleep. And even if you do sleep during the day and you're awake during the night, who cares, right? You can get your room to be dark enough, your bedroom to be able to sleep at night, at day perfectly fine. And with all the artificial lighting out, again, sometimes probably better, but like, they say not to look at your phone because it disrupts your circadian cycle when it's dark, right? So, inversely, if you're looking at screens and you're having lights on during the night, that should be just as good as daylight.
Not quite. You still have to get quite a lot of sunlight for vitamin D, because vitamin D deficiency is really, really bad.
I mean, yeah, okay, that is definitely a thing. But I was talking about like the circadian rhythm. Of course, like vitamin D, yes.
Yeah.
There's pills for that. Like, I'm not saying that you should necessarily.
Wait, pills?
I mean, there's
pills for vitamin D.
I mean, there's vitamin supplements for just about anything. I'm pretty sure there's vitamin D supplements.
I don't know about vitamin D, but like you can just get like a sun lamp.
I mean, the point is, right? We can talk all day about like which sleep schedules are optimal, but the point is, I don't see how people are being judged on when exactly they sleep. Not even like how much. I mean, we talked about how much as well. That's also to some degree a problem, but also just when. Why? Do you want to go on to the next one?
Sure. We've been on this one for a while.
Yeah, I find myself ranting a lot. I mean, it was kind of... inevitable that we were going to get through fewer questions than last time. Because last time we intentionally had the ones that were closed-ended, and we're not really meant to start a conversation in these ones. I don't know what they're exactly meant to do, but...
we still managed to start conversations last time.
Hey, listen, right? I can start a conversation about just about anything. I'll go on tangents until there ain't no tangents left. Like, I'll go on so many tangents that I'm fucking making a circle and I'm back to the beginning. That's not how tangents work. You would need to go exactly 3 tangents deep to go back to the beginning, I believe. Or 2. Wait, 1, 2, 3. You go inevitably back. You cross over with the beginning on the 4th tangent, would be back online. Or you just have 2 where you go one direction, you just go back, I guess. A tangent is in a...
What was the definition of a tangent?
It's, being tangential means being at a 90-degree angle. So you can make a square with 4 tangents. So you're back on the original track. It's a math thing. It doesn't actually have anything to do with actual tangents and conversation. What food have you never eaten but would really like to try?
Probably like udon, like actual Japanese ramen. They basically only have it in Japan.
Yeah, I was
a lot of people say it's really good.
I was thinking about it, right? And I can't really come up with anything like specific because I feel like if I wanted to eat something, I probably would have, right? Like, unless it's something where you literally have to like travel, as you said, like to a different country just to be able to get like, because most things, right? Like, if I was like, oh, I always wanted to try this one ice cream flavor that my favorite ice cream shop has, just go there and eat it, right? They might be exceedingly expensive, but like, just for trying it is probably still possible. So that's the problem, right? It would have to be something that either you can't get locally and it would require some travel, or something that's just like really expensive. Because otherwise I can't come up with something that I... Like, if I was like, oh, that sounds good, I would just get it.
Like, how about, like, if you have so much choice at your favorite ice cream place, like, you have so many things you really want to try, just didn't visit it enough to try all of it.
I mean, okay.
That might also be the case.
Fair enough, but I mean, at that point, it almost feels a bit weird for the question, because then it's just like, what is the thing that you'll just eat next week, right? It kind of sounds almost like this thing where it's like, oh, I would really love to, but I'm never getting the chance. Like, it's a bit of a weird question in a way, because, I mean, and I'm sure there's people that are like that, but, oh, I just realized something. This is probably a more interesting question for people that actually have dietary restrictions. Like, if you're lactose intolerant and it's like, oh, I really wanted to try this, like, thing or something, where, like, you, for health reasons, maybe can't eat it, that would be another good reason.
Yeah, time to pull up your allergy card.
Fair. I eat things that I'm allergic to all the time. The thing is, right, I'm allergic to just about anything. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but only a bit. But also, most of the allergies aren't like strong enough for me to actually really be bothered by them. So it's kind of that thing where, like, yes, I am allergic to wheat. Both the grain and the, like, spores or whatever. It's not how, you know, like I should both not walk through a wheat field or eat things that contain wheat. But I also eat things that contain wheat all the time, because I don't actually notice it. The food allergy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if I was in a wheat field, I would start sneezing. But, because that's the only allergies that I notice, right? Are like the ones from like airborne stuff where I have to sneeze because of it. The food allergies, I really don't notice most of the time.
Yeah. Also kind of related to I think the first one, I kind of like to try tofu. Just kind of didn't really have the chance to.
I guess it would be interesting. I mean, there's a lot of things that would be like maybe interesting, but I don't think there's anything where I was like, oh, that sounds great, I want to eat that, and then you just never get around to it. That seems odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can't come up with anything. I was thinking about it, but Like, I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of things I would be curious about, and there would be a bunch of things I would definitely be willing to try, if given the opportunity, but I don't think there's anything where I'm like, ooh, I've always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to eat that one thing. It's like, just do it. I think it's also another thing that, in terms of like the social situations, it's not as much of a stigma necessarily, but a lot of people have those things where they're like, oh, I've always wanted to try that, I always wanted to do that, and they just don't, right? And it's like, I feel like oftentimes people are just also a bit reluctant to do things. Just for fun,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I am. Because, like, what if it's not as good as you've imagined it?
I don't know. I mean, I'm making it sound like I'm like that, like really spontaneous, impulsive person, and like oh, I want to do that, I'll do that. But I kind of don't feel like there's a lot of things that I mean, also there's not a lot of things that I want to do. But I feel like if I really did want to, I would probably just do it.
Yeah.
Let's do one more so we have a nice round number, and then we can call it for today, I think.
Sure.
Number 4! What's something you really resent paying for?
Hmm.
I feel like that would only really work if you had to pay for... I mean, okay, there's two ways that could work, right? Either you have to pay for something that you don't necessarily want to be paying for, but you still have to. You know, you can make arguments about like taxes and related stuff. If you live in a less civilized country, you might have healthcare expenses that are like extraordinarily high, and don't get covered by insurance, or your insurance system is pretty fucked. Looking at you, the US, and right, like those sort of things. Or it's really something that you, I guess, regret having paid for, which could also lead to resentment.
I guess. Or if something that, like, as in my example, like, I really don't like paying for mobile internet in Germany. It's like,
okay,
kind of bad. And also kind of expensive for that. But there's just like no other options, no better options here in Germany.
Okay, yeah.
So.
All right, so I guess it's something that you kind of have to have or really want to have, but you just don't really like the way that it... It's almost hard to say that, though, to like a very strong degree, because like, yeah, but also, if you really were that upset about it, you just wouldn't pay for it, right? So, like, no one is forcing you.
Kind of have to.
Well, if you want to have it, right?
I mean, I kind of don't like having to pay so much for so little. If like pretty much all neighboring countries have so much better service in that area, or more or less the same amount of money, or sometimes even less.
Wait a second. Neighboring countries. European countries.
I think so.
I believe there's a law that, I'm not sure if it applies to internet, but there was definitely for mobile data, there was definitely a law where within the EU, you can't charge more for calls that are like... So, roaming, right? When you're on vacation in another country and you want to call someone with a regular cell phone, it costs more than if you're doing it in your own country. That, I believe, is not legal in the EU. I think within the EU you have to, if you want money you country to another, you can't charge for roaming. And I'm not sure how it works with internet, but it's very possible you could just get a contract in another EU country and still use it perfectly fine in Germany. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's worth looking into.
Yeah, might be.
I'm also not sure if,
like,
if providers care about your nationality, but if you're on vacation, you can get a temporary contract. So I don't know how that works for internet, as I said, but that's just the thing that immediately came to my mind. But it's like, like if you said like, oh, it's cheaper like in the States, in Australia, like I don't know, but I can't do anything about that. But if you said like, I don't know, France, Austria, like Netherlands, Belgium, I don't know, you might be able to just straight up like like call a company from there, be like, hey, I would like to make a contract with. I mean, language barriers apply, but
yeah.
I mean, not in Austria.
I assume they speak at least funny German or like English.
Well, yeah, I mean,
English should be fine.
I was about to say they probably have for like foreigners. Again, for like if you want to go on vacation there, or I mean, even if you're just like a recent immigrant and you have learned the language there, like there's probably.
Yeah.
That might be worth looking into. I resent paying for. I don't know. I'm not really paying for a lot of things. But like I don't have a lot of. I mean, I have a lot of purchases that I've made like over my lifetime, but I don't think any that are like regret to a point where I would be like, ooh, I resent doing that. And I don't have a lot of recurring costs, so it's kind of weird. It's again, it's one of those where I feel like if I like really resented paying for something, I just wouldn't. Again, with the exception of something like taxes, where you just have to. Except for like if you don't have any income, you don't have to. Which is kind of what I was getting at. Resent. I don't know if there is anything I resent paying for.
I don't know. That was like the only thing that came to mind. Like seriously, 15 euros for 3 gigabytes per month is ridiculous.
I don't have a mobile internet plan, and I've been very happy with it.
Yes, because you barely have a smartphone.
I have a smartphone. It's an HTC Wildfire S. It's a smartphone.
I mean, I said barely.
Yes. Yeah. And that brings us to the last segment of this podcast, and the last segment of every podcast, because we're very structured like that. And that is the Songs of the Week. Hey!
Hey. So, my song of the week is Bonjour Madame by Lolita Jolie. I probably butchered everything there.
That went English there for a second.
Yes, translate.
Like, I can't like remember all of what she said, but like I know there was a thing where she was like something about open my heart. I hope you find the key or something. I think she sang at one point. In the first part,
something like that. Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, you know, there's a lot of. I mean, what was it? You said Bonjour Madame was the title. That means hello, madam. Yeah. Or, I mean, literally, bonjour, if you break it apart, means good day.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, really?
Yes.
Like, it's 2 words?
No.
Okay.
It is 1 word. But if you break it apart, like, it means that. Like, bon means good, and jour means day. I'm sure it's one of those things where
yes,
it used to be 2 words, but then because it's used in conjunction so much, they eventually... get together, which I believe is called agglutination, if I'm not mistaken.
Would make sense.
Yes. So, that's what that means. I mean, yeah, that's about all I remember from the text. I mean, there was some English in there, as I said. Took me by surprise. I mean, she sings like, what is it? Tu as dit bonjour, madame? Like, you have said bonjour, madame? Well, it's a quote. Like, hello, ma'am. Yeah, you know. Anything else you want to say about that song?
Yeah. Not really, no.
Which brings us to my song then, I suppose. And that is Love's Divine by Seal. Anything?
As per usual, I think I've heard of that, though I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you had heard it before. It's definitely not something that I just like picked from like a very underground. Like I usually pick songs that you probably have heard before. Not always, but
yeah. I mean, it sounds like the typical song that would like be on the radio. I happened to hear it maybe a couple of times.
Yeah.
While driving.
I feel like
somewhere.
Most of the time it's like, oh, this song used to play on the radio like back in the day, and now I heard it again, and now I'm adding it to my collection, and now I'm making it a song of the week, right? Like that's oftentimes how this goes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's also just older songs, but the thing is, a lot of the songs that I add are just songs that I remember from my childhood, even if it is stuff from like the 60s, 70s, or 80s, where like because my parents used to listen to a lot of that music, and there's also still older stations that play it, so I do still remember hearing a lot of that as well in my childhood, even though those songs are of course way older than me.
Yeah.
Right. Nothing.
Okay.
It's just funny when a shortcut does multiple things. That's all I'm gonna.
Oh, okay.
Right. If you enjoyed this video, leave us for fuck's sake, you know what I'm talking about. Like, comment, subscribe, that whole thing. Discord server, link in the description. That's not on my. There it is. Yes, okay.
That's it.
That's it.